Hey guys, Duck here, and Siege is making some very good and big moves by buffing some operators like Bandit, Solus, and Jaeger, and they're even reverting the Denari changes they made to him at the start of the season. Now let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. But first off, let's go over the win delta, starting with console. Now, as you can see, Ace and Ashe are overpicked too strong, and they are picked a vast majority of games. That is, when they're not banned, which we will also be covering. But we also have Twitch on console, which is pretty nice to see because I know on PC her F2 is kind of atrocious. But console, if you run a high sense, she's not that bad. I like seeing Thermite up here. In my opinion, Thermite is way better than Ace. Bigger hole, just much better. But if there's Bandit Trickers, then I understand why Ace is being ran much more, because nowadays people all know how to Bandit Trick. We're also seeing Ram up here, which is not a surprise. She has the R4C for the same reason that Ashe has R4C, and that's why she's getting picked. I kind of understand Ram a bit more than Ashe, though. I think Ram's got a way better gadget, and there's always verticality that you can do on a map, so I'm surprised she's honestly this low. Now moving on to the overpick 2 week, we have Buck, which I'm a little bit surprised for. He has slowly been getting nerfed due to just the laser changes, and they patched his extended barrel bug, so that kind of just trinkles him down a little bit, but I'm honestly surprised that he's not winning very much, because he's got a good gun, good gadget, so I'm pretty surprised about that. Same goes for Dokkaebi. I think a lot of people just think they're really good with the SMG-12, and she's the only operator on offense that has it, so I think a lot of people are just selling their games by picking her when they shouldn't be. Here's one of my favorites to see is Nomad. Right in the middle, she's being played more than average, and she's winning games pretty average as well. Nomad's a really good operator. I'm surprised people don't pick her more because she can give you free kills or just completely cut off flanks. And then we have this big bunch of characters, and first off, Thatcher is an underpicked too strong. Thatcher's not that good, and it's probably just because he is useful. Now, in my opinion, Flores should be in this spot because Flores can get the job done better by destroying utility, not just shutting it off. Now, dropping way low is Sense, underpicked too weak. Now, personally, I think Sense is a pretty good operator as long as you know some lineups and you communicate with your team. Now, I know a lot of people playing Sense are probably solo queue and not that good, and that's probably why he's low. But Sense is a pretty good operator. If you're good at the game and decently smart, I'd honestly recommend trying to come up with some strategies for him because he can take sites pretty dang easy, especially now that Warden and bulletproof cameras cannot see through his sense walls. Now moving over to PC, everything is about the same except for this. The average operator is actually underpicked too strong, where on console the average operator was underpicked too weak. So this little bundle of operators was shifted down to about here, where Maverick, Deimos, and Lion are, which honestly surprises me as well. We don't even need to talk about that though. But it's interesting to see the shift that most operators are actually better on PC. Maybe this is just because it's PC and people play them differently. I don't know, I'm not a PC player, but it's really interesting to see that most operators are actually performing worse on console than on PC. We do have the regular picks, but one that is vastly different is Dokkaebi. Dokkaebi on console is underpicked too weak, and on PC she's overpicked too strong, which I know a lot of people actually don't enjoy the SMG-12 as much on PC because the recoil is different. Where on console, again, if you play high sense, the SMG-12 is not that bad, but if you're not on high sense, good luck. And then of course, we also still just have sense and underpicked too weak, which I think if people just ran him more, then he would actually move up a little bit, but hey, I understand it because I'd much rather also just bring something like a Ying, which stands out to me in the underpicked too weak section. I'm genuinely surprised that she's underpicked and too weak. Whenever there's a Ying on the board, they're usually winning, so that is very interesting to see. Now moving on to the ban rates, Ace is banned 72% of the time in PC. I'm not surprised now that we're able to ban more operators and ban between rounds, because if somebody's playing Ace and you don't want to deal with that, you can just ban him now. Now the next 3 bans are tied at 20% for Dokkaebi, Thermite, and Ram. Doesn't surprise me because Thermite and Ram are both very essential picks on most maps. Coming in next is Blackbeard, which I'm surprised to see because PC players should know that if you just team up on a shield, they're not going to get very far. So it's also pretty interesting to see Blitz and Montang, but most likely these are the plat players that just don't know how to deal with shields, so they're banning them. Maverick coming in at 10% doesn't really surprise me. Maverick's really good. In my opinion, Maverick should be banned more than Ace and Thermite because you can bandit trick an Ace and Thermite, you cannot bandit trick a Maverick. So I'm honestly surprised that he's as low as he is. Moving over to console, look at these bans. The 3 operators that I just called out as essential, maybe they're just not as useful on PC, but Ace is banned 85% of the time. That's insane. But we do know that we are getting some buffs to both Thermite, Maverick, and Hibana, so that might bring this down a tad bit when those are released. Another ban that kind of throws me off is Ashe, because Ashe is really only useful for Mira, and moving down to the ban rates on defense, we can see Mira is banned every single game pretty much on both PC and console, but let's move on to those next. Starting with console, Mira is banned 83% of the time, so maybe that other 17% is where those Ashe bans are coming in. And then we have Cade coming in at 41%, which also throws me off. Cade claws are super easy to deal with, especially when people don't ban Thatcher. If you are in high elo lobbies, be banning Bandit, not Cade, because Bandit can bandit trick, and he has 4 batteries, so always ban Bandit over Cade. Moving over to PC, the bans are very similar, but one that stands out to me is Valkyrie. Valkyrie is so good. I'm genuinely surprised that she's only banned 11% of the time, especially being that you can ban between rounds. If somebody is playing Valkyrie, you should be banning them. But let's get into the dessert here, starting with Denari, and they're just reverting all of the changes that they made to him, but let's go over what they say. After statistical analysis and player feedback on Denari, we've decided to revert some of the changes from previous patches. We can admit they have been done too hastily, so we have reverted the damage change and reconnection delay. In addition, the Glaive 12 has not performed the way we expected, and it is receiving a package of buffs to make the weapon more viable in gunfights. And can I just say, whenever Siege has nerfed an operator right off the gate, it takes them seasons to revert those changes and buff them back. I mean, looking at Sense and Grim, it literally took like a year for them to even get changed. But this is happening in the exact same season of release, which is very impressive to me. So if we can keep this up, Siege might be on a good path. So the changes they are making is now the lasers are going to deal 20 damage, and they are going to reconnect instantly after the line of sight has been blocked. Now moving on to the Glaive 12, they're increasing the damage from 63 to 67. The damage range drop off is increased to 15 meters to match other slug shotguns, which might I say, why was this not done before? I'm assuming it's because it's a secondary, so it was probably made with a different model, so just in the script and the data of the game, it was probably coded differently. Now at least it's on par with other slugs. They improved the recoil for first shot on both PC and console. Me personally, I didn't really notice that the recoil was too bad, but maybe this will be impactful and it might be noticeable in-game. And the total ammunition is also being increased from 29 to 44. That's going to be noticeable because on certain shotguns, like this one and like Pulse's Shoddy, the very low count of ammo really affects how you're going to use it, because by the time that you set up feet holes and head holes, you're running out of ammo, especially with the Glaive 12, so that's going to be a huge change. And then the hipfire accuracy is increased to match other slug shotguns. Probably not going to notice this, but hey, it's a good change. At least now it's on par with other slugs, so if you do run those, you kind of know what to expect. Now moving on to Jaeger, we are boosting Jaeger's secondary option by including a handgun with sight. This change should add versatility to the loadout and a more reliable mid-range secondary for players that want to use the M870 as a primary weapon. And first off, can I just say, the M870 is so slept on. That shotgun is a beast. So this is probably going to be my main loadout now. But if you still run the AR, then this is just going to be a really good addition, because the P10C is the pistol that both Warden and Clash have. I don't believe anyone else has it. I could be wrong, but it has a scope, which is a huge addition. I don't know why they don't just add scopes to all the pistols, because then every pistol would pretty much be good, and that would genuinely shift the meta of what pistols to run. But there is no downside to this, so hey, run this pistol. This is going to be better. Now moving on to Bandit, hitting exterior soft walls before reinforcing is a common tactic used to improve sound propagation, allowing defenders inside the objective to better anticipate enemy movements outside. Bandit has traditionally lacked a reliable secondary weapon to perform this kind of setup independently. With the introduction of the Karados 357, Bandit gains the ability to create his own openings on exterior walls, enhancing his self-sufficiency during the preparation phase and reducing reliance on teammates for early round destruction. This is huge. They're giving him the Karados, which you can find on, I believe, Alibi, Maestro, and Wamai, but you're really only going to be running it on Wamai because both of the other options have Bailiff. This is huge, especially for my solo queuers and even duo queuers, because if you do not have a teammate that will reliably open these walls right off the bat, then you usually have to waste at least a magazine or two to make these holes yourself with the MP7. Seeing this makes me excited because that means Siege is listening and aware of the meta, especially being that they're actually feeding into it. Most of the time when a meta appears, they're trying to shut it down. Imagine if they made bandit tricking impossible and you couldn't bandit trick anymore. That's something you would expect from Siege, not an addition to the meta. So this is a big W, Siege. Moving on to Solis. Solis' use of her ability has not improved after the latest changes. Players don't get enough benefit from it, and we want to attend to this. We are reviewing her ability configuration and buffing a few perimeters. The range of the ability will be increased along with its overclock duration. We are also bringing back the impact grenades in her loadout to make her a more versatile roamer. So the detection range is set to 20 and was 12. Overclock duration was set to 15 and was 10. Minimum Specchio charge to activate the ability set to 25% was 50%. And she got impact grenades and removed the bulletproof camera. And can I just say, first off, that doesn't really make a difference that removing the bulletproof camera. They should have just kept it on her because there has been some really fun strats with the bulletproof camera. But let's be honest, nobody's going to run it over the impact grenades anyway, so it's not that big of a change. But everything else, the detection range almost doubled. The overclock duration gained 1/3 of its charge, and the minimum charge to activate was decreased by half. This is insane. Probably not enough though, but let's be honest, this is going to improve her pick rate a ton. But I would love to just see the overclock completely removed again. I think they way overdid her nerf, but this is a step in the right direction and will make her a pretty average character, and they probably wouldn't need to do a whole lot more with her, but a little bit more tweaking would be fine. But I want to hear from you guys, so comment down below, what do you think is the most impactful change that we are getting from this patch? Me personally, I know a lot of people will really like the Karados on Bandit. One, it's just a phenomenal pistol, and two, it's going to add to the destructibility, which is amazing for Bandit. But for me, Solis was one of my favorite operators before all the nerfs, and yes, it was just because she was incredibly strong, but the amount of strategies that were invented because of Solis being an operator, I'm excited to be bringing those back. So if you're excited for these Solis videos that I am going to be dropping when this change comes out, then make sure that you subscribe, like this video, and turn those notifications on, because when I tell you I got Solis strats, I got Solis strats. Anyways, peace out, be safe, and I love you guys. Bye-bye.